You ever been having like a really nice game? You think you're gonna win because they don't have any economy anymore, but then they just swipe in with like 26 carriers or 30. It's actually gonna be 30 soon. But like as you can tell, it's like a 45 minute game. Actually, I think goes another like 10 minutes because I'm just trying to slow push with all my spore crawlers. As you can tell, there's probably at least like 150 spore crawlers on this map because I'm just so sick of carriers, and I thought that's the only way to fight them. But I did not. Oh my gosh, like there's just nothing you can do. They just like roll through everything. At least that's what I thought. So like this is the inspiration for my video today. I just thought that I would have to slow push with a few brood lords to break through their buildings while I had nothing but anti-air, and it just boggled my mind. I'm like, how can this race just not be stood up to? Like, what am I supposed to do to like fight against any of this? Because I was trying to do like fungal growth, I was trying to do like parasitic bomb, but a lot of my spellcasters couldn't actually get close enough because they just get melted as soon as the carriers smell their blood. And I was thinking, you know what, this will be the one that Hearthstone finally agrees that Protoss is OP. But then I was like, you know what, he's a Protoss, so it's just not going to work that way. So I'm just going to have to figure out a way to claim it myself. But like I couldn't get my my yoinks or my parasitic bomb just because those spellcasters died before they even reached the battle. And I knew that I couldn't just run my army into their base because they just had so many cannons. I mean, at this point in time, I don't know if you can really see the cannons, but like he's already at the critical mass of carriers. But what I was trying to do earlier is just attack and kill his economy because I'm like, okay, I can deal with a handful. But as you can see, every base was surrounded with cannons. It was surrounded with shield batteries, and you'd overcharge them. So earlier in this game, I was running into it with banelings. I was running into it with hydras. I was running into it with most things I could think of. And it just wasn't really working that well. And it pretty much all came down to here in the next few seconds where the Protoss is like, you know what? I'm a Protoss. I can just A-move and win. And then, I mean, that's pretty much what you see right here. He just like walks in, and I'm like, oh yeah, corruptors, get them one by one, one by one. Oh crap, I'm losing, better run away. Use my overlords as shields. But it was all vain, and I had the saltiest night. Like, I went to bed and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that I just lost to this. So what I decided to do was to jump into the unit tester so I could figure out how to beat a skytoss army, because I'm like, there has got to be a way. Sure, a lot of the sources that I find online, like on Reddit, they're pretty much like, just don't let them get carriers. And I'm like, oh no, there's gotta be a way to stop them once they get the carriers. So that's what I pretty much painstakingly went through today. I found that the carriers that are more spread out usually do worse. So in order to make it hardest for myself, I put all the carriers into one little spot. So you'll see me doing that fairly frequently throughout the game. And I just had kind of like a little demo of what I had in the game, where I had spore crawlers and I had corruptors. So I'm just testing what happens when I don't target fire this game. And you can kind of see it that the corruptors are kind of putting up a fight, but like they actually aren't doing anything. You see on the command card that there's still 33 carriers, so like the only thing dying are the interceptors, and those are just being rebuilt actually faster than the corruptors are killing. So I found that corruptors, though they're tanky, they just have really awful DPS. So in this test, I wanted to go through and see if at the very beginning target firing everything, if that would make a difference, because this time at least carriers die, unlike last time where I was just killing interceptors. And I'll just let you watch that. So in this game, I decided to use parasitic bomb because I was like, oh yeah, I'm a dum-dum. That's what I needed. So I queue them up, tell them to do the parasitic bomb, and then run away. I lost 2 of them in that fight. They didn't really... Well, they got their spells off, but like, it just didn't really help. I do kill maybe 3 or 4 more carriers, but it's really not worth having the extra Vipers for parasitic bomb, because the Vipers can only cast at one time because it's 125 and they only have a max of 200 mana. You could do it abducts, but like you're already just surrounded by stuff, so It's just not really worth your time to have these Viper boys in your army comp. So in this test, I figured that corruptors are bad, so I'm going to just try straight up hydras. And I kind of set up a scenario like in last game where they're just turtling behind their base. And here I'm trying to do just target fire because I found that worked really well for the corruptors. And I just get decimated. Absolutely decimated. Here, we'll watch it again. So again, in this example, we're going to just show the target firing, and a few of the negative things that you're going to find is that your units spend more time walking than shooting, as well as they spread out, so they aren't really in the microbial shroud. And yeah, you just see, they just lose. It sucks. So don't do this with your hydras, because you're going to lose. So now that I figured out that I just shouldn't target fire, I'm just going to chill behind my spore crawlers and let my hydras do the work. Sadly, all my spore crawlers died instantly, so it's as if I didn't even make them. So maybe I just need to position them differently. But as you can tell, like, I'm not doing too bad. I'm not going to win this fight, but I'm not going to like trade very poorly, because I'm just taking out every one of the interceptors, but they're building pretty much just as fast as I can kill them. So I'm not really getting anywhere with it. But this could be a good strat if I'm just reinforcing with a bunch more hydras. So this time I'm going to do things ever so slightly different. No target firing. I'm going to sit in the middle of my spores. The lurkers are pretty much just to force the fight eventually, because he will eventually lose the base and the shield batteries will eventually lose shields. And I mean, worst thing that he can do is just like shoot those and I just make them. But like three lurkers are not a huge deal against against a carrier army. So I'm just doing my little shroud from my infestors. And did you know that this does 50% damage reduction from the sky? I thought that was insane, but like this spellcast, it keeps your infestors safe, and oh my gosh, it helps your units just absolutely destroy what you're fighting. So you'll get down to the point where you just have endless interceptors coming out, but it's always just one at a time. At that point, you want to like start boxing small amounts of your army and then autoing down the carriers, because if you just sit there and fight only the interceptors, that's all you'll ever fight, and you'll eventually die. It will waste the Protoss's money, but he won't lose carriers. So you have to target fire a little bit, while some are just chilling and shooting the interceptors that come out, because you don't need like every one of them to stop the interceptors. It's just kind of overkill when they all target the same ones. But yeah, we're pretty much going to win this fight. They don't have any interceptors. I think a normal Protoss at this point would retreat, because he just knows he's not going to win. And at this point, you can push the base and deny some economy. Hopefully you have some lurkers left over. But like, I found this comp, and like we have stuff left over. We're actually killing a full 200 supply worth of carriers. That's 33 carriers, and you're rarely ever going to fight that in a normal game. Most of the time, you'll probably fight around 20. But we just did that and survived with 27 army supply, and we started with 150. Because when I did these tests, I wanted to start with 150. And spore crawlers, we only have about 12 of those. Queens can also be pretty useful. They can heal each other. They're kind of bulky, so that mitigates, like, if they have 1 or 2 high Templar for storms. But the lurkers that you'd have would help out with that too. But I just wanted to test pure queen. So I'm just casting the heal on all of the queens and doing like very well. We're at very low interceptor count, and what I found is they're nice and tanky. They do the damage they need. They're able to heal each other. The shroud just makes it so the carriers do very little damage, and it just takes a long time. So that's the con with using this many queens. But I would suggest having as many queens as you can, kind of like a 50-50. I'll just zoom to the end of this, because we do end this fight with a decent amount of queens left. we started this fight with 72 queens, ended with 46. They're good for sieging on creep, but off creep, they're awful. What I found from this unit tester is that if you're ever fighting a carrier-based army that is maxed on carriers, the best way to go about that is to fight inside of your spore crawlers. Well, like in between them, but you know what I mean by inside, right? Hopefully. Have your hydras and your queens, as many queens as you can. Queens just make it more reliable, even though they're slow. Microbial shroud is absolutely amazing. Having a 50% damage reduction just keeps your army alive for so much longer. And however you want to siege, you can use brood lords to get them to come attack you, or you can use lurkers. But I think that lurkers may be easier just because it's along the same tech tree as the hydras that you're going to be using anyway. Just make sure you don't target fire things down while there's a critical mass of the little TIE fighters coming out of the carriers. But as soon as those are in low numbers, feel free to just take little chunks and auto attack things down, because that's when you're going to win. At this point, we beat a Protoss with a bigger army supply. We had 150 army supply total of everything that I had here, with 12 spore crawlers.